And a fine Tuesday morning to everybody. A little bit on the cloudy and rainy side here in South Florida, but we'll take it because it's 80 something degrees. Rest of the country is wearing coats this morning. Something good happened last night.
Welcome back to another Nudelberg Daily Huddle. Thanks for being here with us this morning. And we are coming off of a wonderful junior achievement event last night. Lori, congratulations.
Thank you. Listen, really, the congratulations go to the 4 co-chairs, your dad, Steve, David, Aiken, and Chaz. Them and the committee nailed the sponsorships. Last night, Channing was the star of the show, as always, right? Of course, except for Noam, the student, who was amazing. So it was all in all, it raised, I think, more than last year. And everybody had a great time. I think that's the bottom line, which means they'll come back.
Yeah, I mean, for me, when I got up to the stage, to welcome everybody and do all that, I looked at that room. The room doubled from years in the past. It went deep into the back of that room, and you just saw faces that are just the who's who. The crowd was great. There's Christian, there's Tim Rappold, Mike Ficara. It was just great. There were great people, all with the right heart. There you go. Bottom left, the ladies of On the Ball, super cool. Ed Dykes, thank you for supporting. Bob Goldfarb, thank you for supporting. It was a proud moment to be up there. But, Channing said something that was, and for those of you who don't know, Channing Crowder is an ex-Dolphin player. He is on, he has one of the top podcasts out there. It's called The Pivot. He's great. But he said, for all of you out there, you're raising money for kids like me. He was one of those kids that didn't have a way out, didn't have the right structure. And I thought that really hit home, and would love to actually go down the road finding people like him, like Alex Rodriguez talks about Boys and Girls Club all the time, because that made him, that carried him as a youngster. When you see people who, have been through JA, anyway, just a really fun night, really proud. Food, Susan Renison at the Hard Rock, just, what a great job they did. So the room, the guitars, that can't say enough. If you were not there next year, I'm chasing you down to be there. We're going to be selling tables
for everything, everyone who came.
Lori, you hit it on the head. You spoke about, look, like the impact that we make creates the future that, oh, hold on.
Somebody fell, I think.
Somebody fell. So
I think what I was saying was that, look, we're also fortunate. We've had role models and mentors, and everyone, I hope on the Huddle has had, right, those opportunities. 70% of the kids we serve have never had and will never have those opportunities. And the league is so much more than just the $1,000 a year, right, to help with the programming. They're actually out there mentoring the kids, and that's the key. It's the men who are getting involved that really makes the difference.
Now, I didn't realize this, and even Casey and I were like talking. When we started, it was only 30 people. I didn't even remember
and there were about 30 new people that got up on the stage last night. So we're probably a little over 100 league members.
Yeah. So, it was super fun, super great, all about it. I said this in opening up, and I mean this to be true. Every great leader I have ever come in contact with in my career, as I was building my career, always had philanthropy as part of their mantra. And, it's basically sending the elevator back down. None of us did it alone. None. Everybody can point to somebody that influenced them, good or bad.
But I do want to tell you something that I did observe, and I've observed it before. Your sons know about philanthropy because you instilled it in them. You exposed them to it. I knew about it at a young age because my dad and mom exposed me to it. My father took me to all those things. I notice the last few events I've been to, the younger generation, right? The younger are not as quick to step up and donate, right? The $1,000, right? Now, part of that could be because they're not quite as established financially, but some of them are. And I think if they haven't had somebody instilling that in them and teaching them that this is part of success and right that so I just think it was
No, I think there's a
more
lot to be said for that. I was brought up in that environment. Mark and Jake on their own said, Mark is part of the Russell Foundation as well. I'm involved in a couple of different things. It's important to me because I wrote about this in my book,
you have a book.
which is a great gift for the holidays. Just
A bullshit? A bullshit? A bullshit?
Good job, Shay.
The more you give, the universe sends it back to you. That's really the message. It wasn't so much about, any particular, charity, as it were. For me, it was about give. Just keep giving, and you don't have to give money. You can
Right.
give time. You can give
Your time,
talent,
right?
and
But-
treasures. So it's.
But
an
I want to
interesting
bring it.
thing.
I want to bring it back to the huddle for a second. What I think they're missing, the ones that don't get it yet, is it isn't, as you said, whether it's time, money, whatever you're getting involved with. That is part of building the network, right? I can tell you most of my relationships came from being involved in nonprofits. And that's the key, right? We talk about building your network, whether it's on LinkedIn. That is just another great way to build your network. And I think we as a society, as a community, we need to make sure that we're providing that,
Well,
that guidance.
I agree. I think it's about community, right? And even Sarah said, I think it's more valuable to donate your time and be a part of it than it is to just donate financially. I agree 1,000%. Like, and you can look at, I think Andrew Koenig, who is the chair and who has done a great job for you guys and is committed to doing more and more years. I'll be with AK tonight, but AK isn't just a financial donor. He's giving his time. He's giving as much of his effort as he can to a lot of organizations. He works with American Cancer. He works with American Heart because both of them have touched his family very uniquely. But I think, Jonathan Aaron said, I think younger people are more discerning on the organizations they give to. They want to get a feel and see if they're passionate about it. I agree, right?
Yeah.
Like I did some work with cystic fibrosis early. Cystic fibrosis is a ridiculous disease, right? Like the stories that come out of that are absolutely heart-wrenching, and the work they do is incredible. But I can't say that organization really spoke to me and my purpose and who I am as a person. Russell Education Foundation is very different. I dealt with a lot of the kids who struggled academically in college because they were never provided the resources coming up. So their athletic ability far exceeded their academic ability. And then they were thrusted in this position that they were not prepared for. So if I could do something to help that and know that I'm solving a problem that I dealt with directly, that's one thing. Same thing with junior achievement. I grew up in an entrepreneurial family. I saw the difference in the way my mind worked compared to a lot of my friends' minds because of the households they grew up in. So why would we not offer that opportunity and that experience to every young person to know that building your own business is a possibility and owning the entrepreneurial mindset is a possibility, even if you don't go on to run your own business?
And that's what we teach at JA, or one of the
right,
things.
right.
And by the way, all the kids who start companies in JA in the fellows program have to give a portion of their proceeds to a charity.
Yeah, so you're training them right off
We're
the bat.
teaching them off the bat.
I don't want people to lose sight of the fact that it is a fundamental part of building a business. When we do a business plan with people, we give, yes, we get, but if you just said to yourself, hey, I just moved to South Florida, I don't really know anybody, where can I go to meet the right people? Lori, how many people are on our board?
70.
70 people that you could actually share something in common with right off the bat, and then make them ambassadors for you.
Right.
Hey, I'm involved just like you, shoulder to shoulder. Hey, who do you know that I should talk to about
How do you-
what I do for a living that allows me to give more money to Jay?
Right. I mean, look, we talk about Kim Sarney, right, who came into town and been here maybe a year and a half. What did
She
she
said
do?
that on the show. She
Got
said it
involved with
on the Huddle in the
nonprofits.
Hot Seat.
Right. That's how she connected with
Listen,
everyone. Anyway,
I go back. Love the way JA is paying tribute to Wayne Huizinga. The younger generation doesn't really know who he was.
Right.
I was fortunate. I met him at a JA event. You know, I mean, it was
well,
like, who are you? What are you doing here? I had no idea who he was. He had no idea who I was. But then the next thing you know, I'm in his office. We wound up doing stuff for all of the Wayne companies, and he's responsible for building that building. It's incredible.
Well, I think our young people don't know about any of the entrepreneurs and innovators who built our community, right? And so that is part of our entrepreneurship program. So it's exciting. So thank you, everybody.
So there's a younger guy who he'd rather go to Germany than right.
And he was there last night.
Yes, we are
And
passionate.
I will say this. So you hit on it, Lori, and I had this conversation with Gabby on the way home. It was the first time for me that I did feel like there was a significant representation of my / Jake's generation. You know, Jake and I are 12 years apart, so we're a full generation apart. But traditionally in that event, I felt like I was there and I was around a lot of my dad's friends and my dad's network, and I was viewed as Steve's son in those events. And now there's a real shift. Like, I'm running into plenty of my dad's network, and it's good to see them again, and it's great to talk to them. But all of a sudden, I'm running into my peers now. There's a lot of my peers that I'm networking with there, and then I'm looking at a younger generation that's coming into it. So it's really this paradigm of three, you know, really driven generations of people in South Florida that are all in one room. I thought it was the best event so far.
Awesome. Well, listen, Jake, please don't get defensive. We're not picking on your generation. We're saying we should provide opportunities.
Well, just let's close this up. To speak about that next generation tomorrow night, there's a invite only sponsored by the Revenue Advisory Committee, which I am chair of, where we're putting young leaders up there. Andrew Koenig, Kenny Stiles, Jared Levan, you know, guys who came from generational money, who understand the responsibility. So if you want to talk to them, reach out to us. Let me know. I will gladly put you on my invite list. It's going to be an unbelievable panel, you know. So I don't think we did wake up music this morning, did we?
Not.
Let's wake this thing up. Come on. So if you have not heard it before, you know, we are open enrollment for Get on the Ball. So it's really nice to see people renewing. I know they got information about sticking with the tribe, supporting it next year. So I'm super excited about that. Go.
But most importantly, we've got a new member to celebrate today, which is Michael Fricara. Michael joined the Get on the Ball community yesterday, and it was just really cool to have the conversation with him, which really is a continuation of the conversation this morning. Community, growing, learning, networking. And as I spoke to him about the way Get on the Ball has grown, you know, from what its original inception was teaching people how to modernize their sales process and giving them the tools that we use to grow our business. It's really grown into this organization and this community of entrepreneurs, business leaders, and people that are just have a desire to grow, that are all committed to coming together once a month virtually, learning, sharing, growing, whether it be directly from us or from each other in the group. So super excited to have Mike in the group. Can't
Good for
wait to
you.
have him on the accountability call, and looking forward to everybody else who newly enrolls towards the end of the year.
Yeah, good stuff. I know I spoke to Tim Rappold last night. There's so many good people that are part of our world. It's really fantastic. But there's no better time to do anything than right now. Shay, play me some motivational music. So, quick question for all our music lovers. Van Halen, better with Sammy Hagar or David Lee Roth?
Didn't listen to them, so I don't know.
You didn't listen to Van Halen?
She didn't go to Chipotle and she didn't do this, man. Fuck.
Lori, I find out something new about you almost
I
every
was
show.
a disco person. I was not into rock.
Yeah, but they're like different eras, aren't they? Like Eddie Van, or the Van Halen band was like the 80s, and disco was dead at that point, wasn't it?
No, disco
She
wasn't.
kept it going. She was the
No,
only one.
not for Lori, it wasn't. Not for Lori.
I said for me. I was
Christy-
into the disco ball.
I would
This
imagine
way-
that the consensus is going to be Hagar.
I think it's Hagar, which, David Lee Roth thought he was irreplaceable. And then, there's a lesson. Anyway, so one of the things I'm running into is people want to get better, don't know how, and they get paralyzed. So it's more of a, how do I do this? And there's so many people barking at us, the stuff, do this, you have to do this, you should do this. It's really hard to pick who your mentor is and who's going to give you. One that has done a great job with us, for us, is Bradley. Brad's really been very directive. He is genuinely him, Bradley. He holds no punches. And he recently put out this piece of content that I want to discuss, but I think is so relevant to what the State of the Union is. So, Shay, give it to me.
I used to be the guy that was like, what do I film? What do I film? What do I film? And I'd never film anything. And then I'm like, okay, I know what they want. They want pictures of me looking cool. Who wouldn't? You scroll back on my social media, way back, you'll be like, oh, he ain't lying. That's what he was doing. Yeah. I was coming up with sayings and you can't get rich making poor choices. But nothing was happening. And then I hired a camera guy. He came in and he said, we got to make content. But I was running a real company. I got a bunch of employees. I got payroll issues. I got the same shit everybody deals with. So I'm busy. I don't have time to be making content. He keeps coming in. Hey, got to make content, got to make content, got to make content. Finally, I said, turn the camera on. I am the content. I didn't even realize he turned the camera on. And he started filming everything. So then that footage is what started being dropped. And that's when everybody started freaking following and engaging. Be the content. You are the content. Just go be you.
Why don't you speak to this, Dad?
Yeah.
So, it is very interesting because I was an early adopter to this stuff. And it was like, hey, wait a minute. My parents and everybody told me if you talk about yourself, you're bragging and it's not a good thing to do. And then here comes this, this technology, this platform that comes my way that I'm looking at it saying it really should be about me. It's a way to me to market myself, for me to talk about me, who I am, what I do, who I do it with. it was very difficult to understand that I was the content. And, I've had conversations with people where I've said to them, it's like I can start a conversation about anything. And we could talk peanut butter and jelly. We can talk Oreos. We can talk Pop Tarts. You can talk about anything. You can talk about sports, college, whatever, So what's interesting about the world that we're in right now, I am not above being coached. And that freaks people out. They were like, well, who coaches you? Well, Mark coaches me. I have a dedicated coach, but we're in our team meeting yesterday and he gives me commentary about my content. He goes, Dad, I'm not seeing as much stuff about you. You're kind of putting out these nuggets all the time. But I said, okay, I'm a Jet fan. I'm going to talk about my frustration. My post yesterday, my video exploded, absolutely exploded. So I don't know if Mark paid people, but I was the content. I didn't give anything else other than what was in my brain and how I tied it to business. That if something's not working, make a change. Hello, Jet, and so it sparked lots of dialogue. And
I really try to find simple ways to get people to understand this, right? And so I try to break down brand. What is brand? Brand is a feeling, right? That's all it is. Brand is a feeling. Brand is how you feel when you see somebody's face, when you see somebody's logo, when you see somebody's tagline. It is a feeling that you have. So the brand that you try to create is a feeling inside of somebody else. So in order to create that feeling, I think you got to understand that you have to create as many different context points as you can. How many different connection points can you create for the audience that you're delivering to trigger one, to create a feeling, either good or bad? Doesn't really matter, right? As long as you find a way to do it. So yeah, Steve's drinking his own Kool-Aid.
Well, there's a lesson there. There's a lesson that the minute you think you know everything, you're lost. You're done.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
don't know. Sure, tell me. I was open to being coached, and Mark and Lori and I talk about this all the time when we're not on screen. It's one of the most important things you can be is coachable.
Yep.
If you think you know it all, man, don't bother showing up because you're going to get run over.
And it's the idea of constant iteration, right? Like, even if you're really good at something and you've been doing it for a decade, to think that it's going to remain the exact same and that you're not going to have to change it at all after 10 years is it's irresponsible, really. And I go back to talking about watching Florida State be absolutely horrendous when I first got there. Watching us run the program, it was 2005, and we were running it like it was 1999. And they didn't realize how much the game had changed in just those 6 years. And so because we were doing shit the way that it worked 10 years ago, it wasn't working anymore, but we weren't paying attention to that. We knew what was going to work and we kept doing it and it didn't work. And then that led to everybody getting fired and all the things happening. And the change had to happen in order for it to get back to being successful. So, like, just because you were good at it and you've been good at it doesn't mean that there aren't little tweaks. We spent the day yesterday discussing how to tweak the newsletter. I think people get a lot of value out of it. And our open rates and our statistics are better than industry standard. We still looked at it and said there's room for improvement. We got to tweak this, we got to tweak that. And even though we're not wholesale changing it, there are minor adjustments you can make to constantly get 1% better every day. And that's what it's about.
Yeah, no, I agree. And it's interesting because I think that's part of the mindset we always talk about, right? Is that not staying status quo and always looking at how do I get better? How do I make my business better? How do I make my program better? How do I make my product better? All of those things. But I think that as leaders, we have a responsibility, right, to help instill that mindset of, right, wanting that continuous improvement. Now, to a fault, right? Sometimes it could be to a fault, but you always want to be looking at how can I do it better? How can I make it better? And like you said, bringing in those people who can give us that guidance and that advice and that feedback, even when it's tough. There was a post the other day and it was Nick Saban about average people, right? don't want to hear I'm just paraphrasing, don't want to hear the feedback, right? But great players want to hear the tough criticism because that's what makes you better. And I think that's a hard lesson for some, for many. So being open to that, I think, is the key to this.
Well said. I mean, the idea that I can still be coached makes me feel relevant. It really does. It's like, okay, I'm willing to listen. I don't have to do everything that I hear, but I can, noodle on it, as we say. So great conversation this morning. Really glad we focused on philanthropy. Lori, just so that you know, Henry Paisano grabbed me last night. First of all, he's like the coolest dude.
Me too.
I know, he's so cool. I love him.
And he pulled me aside and he goes, I just want to tell you, Lori is the addition to the show.
I heard that he got greased for that, though. I heard that that
I think there was a little.
I didn't grease anybody. Never. I would never do that. Just because there's a vowel on the end of my name does not mean that I would grease anybody. Henry gets it.
Anyway, you go have an Anazette with him, and everybody make it a great Tuesday. We'll be back again tomorrow with more content, more input, output, creating the way to stay on the ball.
Please don't worry about me. I'm about to let my heart speak. My friends keep telling me to leave this. So let's get down to business.